Thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I'm very pleased to welcome you to this session on fiscal open data for emergency responses, part of the very important United Nations World Data Forum. And we are very pleased to be part of this significant effort. My name is Juan Pablo Guerrero. I am speaking to you from Washington, D.C. in this morning, and I am absolutely thrilled to moderate this panel composed by good friends of the GIFT network and remarkable professionals pushing the agenda of fiscal transparency, accountability, and public participation. I am here with Aura Martinez, my colleague from the GIFT team. She's the coordinator for knowledge and technical collaboration. And together, we will hopefully have a very nice discussion about the challenges and the successful practice to disclose information about the very significant funds that have been spent and that continue to be spent to face the pandemic emergency. When this started last year, some of the members of the GIFT network came to us asking what other countries were doing to make sure that the efforts, the fiscal budget efforts that they were making to face the pandemic were basically transparent. It was very difficult for ministers of finance not only to face the emergency, but also to make it in a way that was transparent and that would allow the citizens and the people to know how the public resources were spent. Let me open here a very short parenthesis to make sure that our friends in the Haberger in the session in Switzerland are able to listen to us. Thank you very much, friends in Geneva. Hello. Can you hear me? Probably not.
Just do
Could
this
you
if
wave
you
your
can.
hand? Could you wave your hand if you can hear me? Oh, wonderful.
Excellent.
Okay. So thank you. We are very grateful for your presence, and we are a little bit jealous that you were able to come in person to the conference. That's wonderful. Good for you. And thank you for joining us. So close the parentheses and back to what the GIFT network did 1 year ago, a little bit more, when members of the network came to us and asked what others were doing to, again, ensure transparency throughout the significant fiscal response. And we did put together a guide. And when I say we, is civil society organizations, ministries of finance, international financial institutions got together and put together a guide that now is very much a help for ministries of finance and civil society organizations to classify and to organize their data in a way that internal coordination and access to information around fiscal response is more accessible. And of course, we are very pleased to have around the table people that inspired us and that really were models and examples to follow in this effort to put together the guide and get inspired about good responses to transparency during the emergency. So we have from Chile, Paula Diaz, the executive director of the Observatorio Fiscal. She represents a very respected civil society organization that works tirelessly on analyzing from an independent standpoint how public resources are spent in Chile. very significant. They work together with and they collaborate very often with government without ever losing their independent critical stance. We have also from North Macedonia, Shiret Elesi. She is advisor to the Minister of Finance in North Macedonia. Welcome. We have from Paraguay, another country who was a model of response to the pandemic emergency. We have the Budget General Director, Teodora Recalde, from the Ministry of Finance, el Ministerio de Hacienda de Paraguay. And we also have, and we're very pleased to have her, the Deputy Assistant Secretary for Accounting Policy and Financial Transparency from the U.S. Department of the Treasury, our friend Amy Edwards, who from the very beginning when public resources were put in open data platforms has been collaborating strongly with the GIFT network to share the US experience on this very significant and transparent response. Each of you will have 7 minutes to present your national practices, your experience, and after that, my colleague Aura Martinez, part of the GIFT team, as mentioned before, will animate a discussion. Thank you all for your presence. Thank you all the people who are listening to this conversation. And let us start with Paula Diaz, the Executive Director of Observatorio Fiscal in Chile. Listeners, please choose the language of your presence. We have Spanish and we have English. Feel free to raise your hand and provide questions and comments using the chat. We'll come to the floor at the discussion session of our meeting. Thank you. Paula, adelante, bienvenida.
Muchas gracias. Thank you, Juan Pablo. I'm going to share a little presentation. I don't know if you can see it. Can you see it?
Se ve, sí.
Just give me 1 second. I've lost it. Sorry. There we go. Okay, is it all right? Yeah. Thank you, Juan Pablo, Aura, for the kind introduction. Good morning to everyone there in Geneva, as well as to those who are joining us by streaming today. On behalf of the Observatorio del Gasto Fiscal in Chile, a nonprofit foundation that seeks to generate advocacy through data analysis to achieve more efficient, transparent, and people-centered public spending, we would like to thank you, Juan Pablo, again, and Aura, and the GIFT and the UN team for having us in this incredible and empowered female panel. As part of the GIFT, in collaborating with governments, civil society organizations, among other key stakeholders, as Juan Pablo said, we're identifying opportunities for strengthening fiscal transparency practices during the emergency situations, bringing to life the GIFT network co-created fiscal data for emergency response guide for COVID-19. Which basically states that governments all around the world have launched substantial fiscal policy responses to reduce the impact of COVID-19 on their population, health, and their economies. Have increased public expenditure, included increased health spending, as well for social support and support for businesses. The speed of these adjustments has challenged approaches that traditionally were used to ensure fiscal transparency, public accountability, and democratic legitimacy, requiring to reflect on current reporting instruments and internal data architecture of governments that allows them to monitoring quick adjustments and their impact to inform time-sensitive decision-making, coordination, and monitoring. Therefore, I'm going to switch slides. Therefore, we are thrilled and thankful to be part of the 4th UN World Data Forum and be given the chance to share with you all from the civil society side some of our experience in enabling factors and practices for fiscal open data publications, and a few of our developed visualizations that have opened and bringing in not only data, but also information to citizens in a simpler manner, which normally is found difficult to understand. From the Observatorio del Gasto Fiscal, we have been working in several initiatives, looking forward to foster people to understand how public expenditure and procurement processes are done and empower them to request accountability related to these processes. So in this way, we have launched in 2020 the COVID-19 government purchases and procurement side. That is basically a daily updated platform which analyzes how government purchases and procurement processes had been addressed in the context of COVID-19 pandemic emergency. Its aim is to describe in detail government purchases and procurement process behavior, digging in main suppliers, buyers, and bought products to embrace the pandemic crisis. Therefore, we encourage government authorities that were coordinating this crisis to provide guidance to related public agencies to identify brands and descriptors in the purchase orders that allowed us as civil society to identify acquisition done to address the COVID-19 crisis, which have been done in a more flexible law and control requirement context because of the crisis situation. This site allows people to identify red flags and monitoring risky transactions because it shows with greater detail and from different dimensions how public agencies and offices carry on their public purchases and expenditures regarding this health emergency. How does it work? Well, data sets used in this project come from both the transactional database as well as the data warehouse of the Chilean Procurement Office called Chile Compra platform, which were given access to us to develop this initiative and foster social monitoring of public purchases and expenditures. Then we identified and removed out of normal range purchases orders, which are mainly due to unintentional typing errors when registering POs in Chile Compra's platform by officers of public agencies. We should remark that a key factor to carry out this project was the collaboration of the chief director of the Chilean Procurement Office at that time, which without which we could not have achieved this platform. So as the second example of our work, I'm sorry, there.
Paula, you have 3 more minutes.
Okay. Another initiative that we have developed is this Transparency Public Work Portal, which was developed along with the Ministry of Public Work and the Chilean Chamber of Construction with the aim to foster higher levels of transparency in public work in Chile, particularly information related with contract management, which are both financed with a regular public budget as well as those financed with the Treasury Emergency Fund. That was created for the government to address the economic recovery plan. The initiative meant to design, develop, and implementing this website by the Observatorio del Gasto Fiscal, which shows information regarding funding execution of public works led by the Ministry of Public Works, included type, behavior, efficiency, and distribution of funding. The next, another one of our initiatives is the Chilean National Health Fund for NASA open data site, which is an interactive panel within the website of the Chilean National Health Fund, which makes available statistical data, studies, public accounts, and institutional reports, as well as other interactive panels related to hospital funding and management info, as well as regarding beneficiary population. Just because I know I have just a few more minutes, wanted to show you our municipal or local finance behavior 2020, which is another panel of visualizations where you can find in detail how municipal or local revenues have been historically at the national and local level, as well as how they have been affected as a result for the COVID-19 pandemic. I think I'm running out of time already. Just wanted to show a few of our initiatives which have been developed during this pandemic emergency, and letting people know and the audience to know that from civil society, we have been working hard to put out data and information to strengthen accountability and on monitoring public expenses. Thank you very much, Juan Pablo.
Thank you for an amazing set of examples of different ways by which civil society can pressure and actually provide a better understanding on how public resources are being used, and make sure that it is in formats and in a language that is accessible to the public. So this is very appreciated. We will come back to you, Paula. First, let me introduce Shiret Elesi from North Macedonia. Shiret is advisor to the Minister of Finance in her country, and we have been very pleased lately to work in your region. We have analyzed the efforts of Serbia, Bosnia, Croatia, and other countries, and North Macedonia has stand out as a country who is pushing this agenda very strong. Welcome. The floor is yours.
Hello to everybody. If you can make a screen share for my presentation. Yes?
I believe you can share. Yeah, there you go. Working. Yeah.
Okay, some.
We can see it. We can see it.
Okay, so at first, thank you for the invitation, distinguished panelists and participation from the UN Data Forum, from the Global Initiative for Fiscal Transparency, and all participants. I'm sorry that we cannot be in physics to see all body and to join all at us. At first, I want to thank also the possibility by which each country today in this panel will discuss about the fiscal transparency and open data and what they have done to know all the citizens and all the stakeholders to show how the public finance were spent, because taking into consideration that the pandemic, which has spread worldwide, has also a lot of information that should be informed the people because of digitalization and so on. I don't know if you see all of my presentation. I will only to see before COVID what was our planning as a state. We have planned rising about the GDP, we have decreasing the deficit and so on. But with the COVID, it was another story. We were in the middle of something that never was before for the humanity, and we didn't know what to do. So at first we have to adjust our budgets and to see how much money we can give to the stakeholders, to the businesses and to subsidies and so on, how to help all the lockdown because the big spread of the pandemic that was then. We have here a fiscal timeline, what we have done every month. Because of the minutes that I don't have, I will only give through to my presentation. From the beginning, here in March, we started with a higher lockdown, and then it was immediately the action, what we do, how we can summarize better or more money for the businesses. We have information about data publishing of our website of the Ministry of Finance, which was continuously from 2017. It was very low in transparency. And now, after in 2020, we think that it's very hard because we have reported everything from the budget execution on the monthly reports, on the quarterly basis, and so on. The general government data for budget execution was published through the GFSM methodology, and we announced the arrears of the public entities, which before 2017 wasn't the case. Fiscal transparency also from the MMF evaluation was conducted. The stocks of deposits was published, which wasn't the case before. and stock loan adjustment table is published. Annual public debt management report was also published. From 2020, we also have a separate strategy for public debt management with the outlook to 2025. Why we think is because what is important on this issue is that we rise the spending. And when we were very low on the public debt on the GDP, now it's 10% points higher in a period from 9 months. So I think that the people and the citizens and the public should know how will be our fiscal consolidation in the midterm, but to convince them that yes, we rise the spending of the public money, but we reallocated them to the stakeholders, to the businesses, and saving also the jobs. In October, in 2020, the Ministry of Finance, as a regular practice, started publishing execution of local government budget because we have a sub-national level of the municipalities, and we thought that it's very important to know what is going on the local finance. In October, we also started publishing data on revenues and expenditures of public enterprises and state-owned companies by enterprises and quarterly basis, because also as them have be affected from the pandemic and they decrease the profits. In February this year, we launched a new tool for transparency on our website, the Fiscal Counter, the daily data for cumulative realization of revenues, expenditures and capital expenditures, and also the government debt. Tax compliance calendar published because our business sectors had required to see how many changes of the law or bylaws will be done. So they have a calendar, what changes will we do. The Ministry of Finance participate in preparation the information of status of realization of all the measures of economic measures that was done and published on the specific website, the coronavirus gov point in April. Citizens budget was also launched, and together with our highest public, can I say, a project is the open finance. Even it was launched in November 2019, it was readapted with lots of information through the pandemic in 2020 and 2020 now. In front, I want to give you information about the transparency, what we did according to the COVID-19 crisis, the health economic crisis, daily press informations about the pandemic and healthy statistics, monthly press conference for realization of the budget in the COVID circumstances, press conference for budget scenarios, because we have planned lots of optimistic, the realistic, and the pessimistic scenarios. What if we have decreased a lot of the revenues? Our highest leg was of the GDP was in the second quarter 2020, when it was minus 15%. And it was one form to inform the public what when are going to make a higher debt, because we need money to improve all the programs that we need for social transfers, for salaries, and from the lockdown of the companies on their supporting. The government reporting was with, we opened a specific program in the budget, which is named Budget Subprogram P1, which are directly measures and money that we allocated supporting to the economy. And if you see our budget, our paper, so you will see with this P1 specific program, you can see additional money which were given through the COVID-19. Open sub accounts of donation, government launch website, and open finance reporters was also readapted. In specific, I want to show you how everything that I said is in practice. So this is open data. You can see it with in our website of the Ministry of Finance. This is a fiscal account where the realistic revenues, expenditures, capital expenditure, but even the government debt, which rise 10% points for 9 months. You can see here the calendar for everything that the business sectors wanted to know. The stock of the debt, unfortunately, it's rising from the end of the fourth quarter in 2019, and now it's still up, but with our fiscal consolidation strategy, which in the midterm with the outlook in 2025, it will be lowering according to the Maastricht criteria. Here you will see the information, yes, of the coronavirus, which we have information about healthy cases and so on, and the possibility where you can take the vaccine places, points, and other things. Here you can see about the public procurement, how much is the sum of public procurement done, how much is the payment, The municipalities and increasing the transparency is also one of the biggest tools that we also establish. Macedonia is 81 municipalities. This is our state, so you can see all the areas of the territory of the municipality with fiscal indicators, where you can see all the revenues, the expenditures, the lack of revenues that they had during the COVID, and lots of information about the local government. Public procurement was also added to our open data, where we had a lot of information about the procurement and change in laws which were affected with contracts with the COVID-19, because it was a very huge immediate to take action, because the actual law wasn't affording to add and to add quickly. So we launched here also a place where we get the crisis situation to be according to the law and the changes, so how you can affect immediately and take measures. Also, what is very important to share with you is that North Macedonia was retained the first place in terms of transparency in the region. I am talking about the Western Balkan region. So we have higher score with 83.4% on this criteria, together with the government. The Ministry of Finance is on the third place. So this is a very good motivation. It is here the website. It's also on the Western Balkan sites, in the also on the states of all the states that were in this evaluation. And you can see here Macedonia. We have also next steps where we want to increase our transparency, and it will be together with establishing a public finance management tool, the IFMIS, which is integrated system on interconnectivity with this fragmented IT system and the public finance management sector, where we want to improve our transparency, linking a lot of information and readapting a lot of things that we think that if you are an open government, there is no place for fake news. Take into consideration that lots of people were affected from fake news through the social media and so on. So our goal is to raise the transparency and to lower fake news. Thank you.
Thank you to Shiret Elesi, advisor to the Minister of Finance of North Macedonia. In a case that is extraordinary, because while in most countries of the world, as the International Budget Partnership have shown, went back on transparency during the pandemic for all of these challenges that have been referred to. In the case of North Macedonia, this actually became an opportunity to move forward. And another country which has a similar experience is Paraguay. For Paraguay, I'm going to ask you to put your channels in English, because I'm going to turn speaking to in Spanish. Y me da mucho gusto presentar a
And I'm very pleased to introduce Teodora Recalde. She is the General Director of Budget from the Ministry of Finance in Paraguay. Welcome.
La escuchamos.
Before I start, I would like to thank the organizers of this event because of the invitation. And I want to, for giving me the opportunity as the General Director of Finances and to show you what we are doing in Paraguay. Dear colleagues and participants, that you are watching us with different media. We will talk about the impact that the pandemic had in Paraguay and all over the world. That even though we live that situation, we've been working on to move forward, to show transparency regarding information. At the beginning of 2020, we had the first news of the virus. And back then, it was something that we thought it was not close to us. However, we had the first patient with this virus. And we ran an emergency call for health and social awareness. It was a call for all countries that we're still facing the consequences of the pandemic. we're still assessing the economic and financial problematic that we have had because of the uncertainty. And this became a challenge for all of us. The experience have showed us to all the countries that we keep fighting this situation. This is a very difficult situation. The measures that we adopted because of this health situation work together with transparency that with this international support, we've been developing a tool in a record time, and we implemented this tool, this innovative tool for the follow-up of the expenses that were within the frame of the pandemic. With this platform, Rindiendo Cuentas, citizens can get to know how their resources are being used, where they are located, to keep track of the same expenses in an open data format with an easy access within a friendly language. The tool is to help the citizen, the researcher, the media, government institutions, how the different organisms and bodies of the state with general and particular participation. This platform, Rindiendo Cuentas, presents information about the budget, the execution, the contract, donations that were received, which are the receptors, everything that was presented by people who work in the government for the management and the execution of the resources, designed to validate the effects of COVID-19. Everything regarding to the information that was automated online and efficiently presented. An important thing to highlight here is that platform has different systems from other entities, presenting information from public health, emergency, anti-corruption agency, and of course the Ministry of Finance in Paraguay. The best thing about implementing this platform, Rindiendo Cuentas, is that this allows us to open the horizon regarding the transparency, with which recently we launched an authorization that is Paraguay Resultados, Paraguayan results, that is constituted to make visible the planning with the budget. This is a product of a process of political and technical action that balances the task with the actions that are defined into a long term. In Paraguay, we are working in a sustainable way, reflecting a previous work between two institutions, the Technical Ministry of Planning the policies, and the Ministry of Finance, with the budget, linking the budget with the planning, which is actually a big step to contribute to the solidity of the government, as well to improve the distribution of public resources, creating measure tools to achieve the results, and give all the goods and services in a transparent way. As we make transparent all these actions from the public institutions, the learning and the space is growing to identify and to adequate and adopt different strategies, tools and practices that will strengthen the transparency and, the most important, the interaction with the citizen. That is a kind of a public audit, The objective of the platform, or these two platforms that I just developed during the pandemic, before and after the pandemic, is to foster the transparency, to encourage the participation, to empower the interests of citizens, to know how everything is planned, how they recover the resources, as well as control and follow the public budget. In the same way, I have to conclude now without before mentioning that these platforms are a very important step to encourage innovation, to impact the economy and the welfare of citizens in our country and all over the world. That's why our commitment with transparency is more strong now. Now I would like to share a video with you to let you see how we are using the different transparency tools that we are giving to the citizens in Paraguay. Thank you very much, and I will share with you the video.
Thank you very much.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Paraguay is a wonderful example of a very quick and effective adaptation of a set of tools that were directed to help the efforts in disclosing information for the public during the pandemic. Thank you. Let me now introduce Amy Edwards from the U.S. Department of the Treasury. She's Deputy Assistant Secretary for Accounting Policy and Financial Transparency. And we are very pleased to have you, Amy, because you have always been willing to share the U.S. very relevant experience on disclosing information to the public. And now I believe that your efforts during the pandemic are quite remarkable. Thank you. The floor is yours.
Thank you. And thanks for inviting me to share our journey. Actually, we'll go back. Yes, thank you. You know, I oversee our fiscal transparency efforts at the Treasury Department, and I also see our other financial reporting and accountability efforts. And so I'm happy to share a piece of that with you here today and talk specifically about our work. It's on our leading website, which is usaspending.gov, which is our platform for disclosing more than $4 trillion annually of spend from the United States federal government. So we'll go to the next slide. I'll talk with you a little bit about our mandates and the legislative background, which is kind of the underpinning for all of our work in fiscal transparency. we began this journey back in 2006 when our Congress and President signed the Federal Funding Accountability and Transparency Act. So this law really required that all of the awards or the procurements or grants issued by our federal government would be provided publicly on a transparency website. So that happened in 2006. In 2014, that law was amended and expanded by the Digital Accountability and Transparency Act, the DATA Act. And that law required that not only we report those awards, those contracts, procurements, or grants, or other kinds of financial assistance that we're giving many times to companies or to our subnational governments, our state level governments. Not only do we have to disclose those, but we have to connect the financial and budgetary information to be able to allow the public, our communities, and to provide the transparency to the American public around sort of how funds are distributed from the highest level and what budget accounts they're coming from and all of the detail that we have, and connect it down to where those funds are flowing through the United States and around the globe. So a very big task in 2014 for especially many of you who are working in the finance and budgetary areas. This data, while we have all of this data, we actually have so much data in the U.S. government that, the real challenge was how are we going to present this in a clear, concise way, following common data standards that would apply to everyone, all of our government reporting. So that includes the procurements and the grants and financial assistance and our budget and our accounting. So how do you kind of harmonize all of that data in a format that will be clear and concise for the public? So we'll go to the next slide. I'll tell you a little bit about what we did. So this is an overview of our process for publishing data on usaspending.gov. And I'll start on the left side here. And I found this to be the easiest because it's a very complex process, as many of you know, but people are often like, well, how do you get all this data and how does it get to the public? So this slide really shows it. So if you look here on the left, you'll see our data standards, and that is really key to be able to combining data from all hundreds of different systems across the US government. We're getting data from over 100 different federal agencies. We're bringing it all together, and it's based on these core data standards. Anybody can take a look at the US government data standards. It's called the Data Act Information Model Schema. And if you Google that, you can find that on Treasury's website. It contains over 400 data elements. It explains our technical definitions. It also has definitions that are more plain language so that, you don't have to be an accountant to understand it. And so that you can have that transparency. So we take data from our agency financial systems, and we also have some government-wide procurement systems and other systems in our government, and we bring all this data together in a common way, and agencies submit that data all to Treasury, and we have something called a Data Act broker, which brings all this data together. It validates it so it's all can be relied upon, and we're ensuring that there's good data quality as part of that in this broker. And then each government agency certifies their data that each time they submit it to us, and then we publish that information on our consolidated Usaspending website process. And then I'll talk to you a little bit about, I want to talk about one important component, and that is our user-centered design process. So we'll go to the next slide. I know many of us today, and I myself have worked on financial data for many years, many decades. And so we are experts in what we do. But I think it's important that we take a step back and as we think about how to share information and provide transparency, we do it in a human-centered or user-centered designed way. So we don't just assume that we know what people want to see and what kind of data or information is helpful to them. We actually developed personas around we identified 8 different user categories here. So a citizen, a journalist, a data owner, a chief financial officer, a recipient, someone who gets money from our government, a budget analyst. So all of these different personas, and we did research with them. We asked them what they wanted to see. We actually then shared prototypes with them so that they could give us feedback and we could make those enhancements and improvements. And this human-centered design process is critical, I believe, because it really helps to increase transparency and make the products more useful to the public, which is really our goal. So I just had to mention that. We have lots of other information about how you do that and our process for that. And you can see details around all these personas on our website. So we'll go to the next page and I'll start showing you a little bit about our usaspending.gov. Because we have built this framework since 2006, we were able to leverage our existing framework to conduct the COVID-19 spending reporting on our already existing website. So because we've built this foundation and legacy of transparency, we were able to leverage it. So we created new visualizations on our website to showcase and provide analysis on the COVID-19 response for the US government. But you could also, it would also contain all the other spending information that we would normally provide. So this is a sample of what our homepage looks like today, where you can dive in and get specific information on our response to the COVID-19 pandemic. If we go to the next slide, this is where you can, if you keep scrolling down our website, you'll see this is showing the number of federal agencies who have received funding in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, how much budgetary resources they've received, which is 4.6 trillion. This is a substantial amount of data that we have on all of that spending. How much has been obligated? So that's how much has been, awarded, and then how much has actually been issued, which is the outlay amount, 3.26 trillion. So just a sample of sort of how much each agency has received in our government. And if we go to the next slide.
2 more minutes, please.
Okay, and then you can see sort of just another visualization, sort of the bar chart of how much has been spent. We'll go to the next slide. This shows where funds have gone. The awards have actually gone through the United States, into which states and how much specifically in outlays. The number of recipients, so 14.74 million people or entities have received awards. So a lot of really rich information on the award level, connecting that financial and award information. If we go to the next slide, this is actually a sample of an award summary page. So when I mentioned we connected all that procurement award, this is an example from the Department of Education to a recipient, Accenture. It shows all of the detail that we have, how much is obligated, how much is specifically. So we have the amount for the whole entity, and then we have the COVID amount. And all kinds of information, description of what it's for, all that kind of information is available to the public for their use and to support the transparency. Let's go to the last slide. Wanted to also highlight the path forward. We are, like all of you, trying to expand the use of data, make it helpful to the public. We have a couple sister sites that I also wanted to mention to you that have developed over the last few years. The first is fiscaldata.treasury.gov. This is the raw information in a modern format. So you can actually take the data sets from not just the fiscal data, but there's a lot of different other data that we have in Treasury. This is sort of how you get access to that data, the metadata, in a very user-friendly format. So I'd encourage you to maybe look at that if you're interested. We also have the data lab, which is where we are conducting developing beta prototypes of new ways to display data. And I would encourage you to check out the Guide to America's Finances, which is providing an overview of all of the revenue and expenditures, debt and deficit for the US federal government in a new and interactive format that we're really proud of. So I'd highlight that for you as well. But like all of you, we have a lot of exciting work going on in transparency, and I'm really pleased to be able to share a little bit of the US journey on this path. We're always improving and trying to expand what we do to meet the public's needs and to provide the transparency that they deserve. So happy to be with you here today and to be on the panel with so many distinguished women who are also leading transparency in their own countries. So thank you.
Thank you, Amy. And this is a wonderful example of a very strong legal framework with a very clear objective, making sure that all of this information really responds to the user's needs. Now, to finish our panel and to animate the discussion, I'm very pleased to ask Aura, the coordinator for knowledge and technical collaboration to take the floor. Aura.
Thank you very much, Juan Pablo, and thank you very much to everyone. I think the discussion has gone around a lot on some of the enabling factors. For example, as Amy was mentioning, a legal framework and a long history of working on these topics, but also coming from Chile and Paraguay, the fact that they are platforms and collaboration with organizations and civil society, as well as how Shiret mentioned, the extensiveness and comprehensiveness of documents allows also to provide better information in times of emergency. We are a little bit running out of time, but I wanted to ask you to go around the table once at least on specific questions that I think will be interesting for the audience to hear. And also if there is any question from the chat or from the WOBA platform, we are welcome to share them with the panelists. In this sense, I think something that the COVID-19 made us realize, and our work, as Shiret knows and is aware of, in the fiscal transparency for emergency response implementation, particularly in the West Balkans, have us realize that even when levels of transparency have been limited in some places due to COVID-19, there is also countries that where the picture is a little bit dire, specifically in accessibility. When we talk about open data and about usage, we talk about accessibility and the limits of opportunities that the audience have to make analysis. And then if they can make analysis, they can probably be build incidents in from civil society or from other societal concerns. Having this in mind, what do you think are the next steps for promoting open data in and engaging more audiences? Also, I wanted to hear if there is specific initiatives for the use of this open data of COVID-19 within the government or with civil society collaborations to improve spending. So the impact of these publications. And in that sense, as we're talking about civil society incidents, I'd like to start with Paula. What do you think about this? How are you moving forward, and what do you feel about incidents and the way that civil society can further advance societal agendas through open data?
Thank you, Aura. Well, in our experience, civil society have fostered the limits to governments and other public agencies to actually open more information as well as data to be accountable for their actions, especially during the COVID crisis. That's because people actually, it's more aware of how public expenditure is done, and because of needs of the population are increasing. That it's not only because of the sanitary crisis or the COVID-19, but also about a social crisis that all through the region in Latin America had been experienced. So I think that also the process of constitutional process that we are being through, especially in Chile, had made more aware the citizens to look at how government and how authorities in the whole range behave, how consistent they are about spending money, what they're promising, how you are affording that promises that you are doing or making. And I think that we are actually fostering other civil societies, and we are making a kind of networking civil society institutions network. So also in different arenas. For example, today we are going to our SAI to launch the national strategy, anti-corruption strategy. So we think that cooperation is the key factor to foster as well the transparency and accountability to the population, to the citizens, and also um, to inquire public agencies and public authorities to actually embrace this challenge that the COVID crisis had brought, as well as the social crisis. And I forgot the other one. If you can repeat the one, or is it
Thank you very much. I think that was something that we've seen also, and we're glad to hear that in Chile the civil society are like starting to band up together in networks to better enhance and have several areas of inquiries and of agendas to foster fiscal transparency, and that you guys been heard and been moving forward. We've seen that in other countries, probably that is not necessarily the case. The civil society has not been able to push that barrier down and to engage in successful debate with the authorities. So also, well, in that sense, I just wanted to then, sorry, Paula.
That it is not easy, though. Actually, it is quite hard, especially because authorities and the government and the Congress are so sensitive because of the national climate or the weather, the political weather, how we said. So it is not easy, but I think that it's easier when you do it together, as Gift does it.
That's a very good insight, of course. And also, well, I wanted just to keep going the question around the table. As Shiret, what are the challenges, next steps, and how to foster usage both inside and outside governments of this information?
Okay, so I will very short, brief. So we think that if you higher transparency or the higher government on this issue, the civil society can get lots of information if you are publishing all the main information, the reports, the budget execution, the fiscal strategy for anti-corruption. In this regard, we also have to aim to fight corruption. How much money, how much more information do you have? The corruption is less and lower. So this is our game together with the government and our Ministry of Finance. We have launched this open finance portal together with USAID. Thank you to Amy and to the American people, because together with ERI and the USAID, it was a very good project. We launched open data for the first time. You can have information about all transactions that are doing as a central level to the budget users, to all the ministries, but also on the local level. And now we have local election, for example, we had information and questions from the civil society, how much are the arrears of the local municipalities? And we said, but everything is published. You can go follow the link into our open finance data, and you can see every information that you need to make your article or to see how the municipalities in the previous year have worked. So in another way, it is a corrective or better improvement on public management. Can it be of a central government or of the new mayors and the city councils? So higher transparency, reduce fake news, and reduce corruption. Thank you.
Thank you, Shiret. And that's a incredible way to look at it. And also, as you mentioned, the fact that other than also allowing it to be public and reduce corruption makes for better allocations and to start looking at better and enhancing governance in not only in the federal government, but with other levels of government. That is also a key insight that we've seen. It has faced many challenges during pandemic. Coordination amongst levels of government has been a very difficult agenda. Moving around the table again, I would like to go with Teodora. ¿Podrías atender la pregunta? ¿Cuáles son los siguientes pasos?
Teodora, could you please answer the question, which are the next steps and which are the challenges in which we can improve the usage of this information within government and out the government as well? Paraguay as the main challenge at the beginning of this pandemic, or when we had the first cases of this virus, This was with the international help, with this tool that we created. And I think that showing the technical language, instead of having this technical language, having a friendly language, something that would be easy to understand, could be either for students or for college students, that has been a great challenge for all of us. It is difficult when you are on the other side, whenever you play with all these technical aspects, with the different codes and the different terminology. So that is one of the biggest challenges that we have faced. And regarding the next steps, we want to bond, have this bond with the different entities, having a dialogue, sharing our different experiences. We have to need open the contracts to the citizens with the easy language. Where are all the expenses? Who are in charge of? Who are involved in these processes? Public health issues. Who is in charge of that? Anti-corruption direction, showing and open all the information. That is basic, that is fundamental, and that is what we need. 1 year ago, or 1 month ago, we launched the platform that it has to do with the bond, because it is not only enough to spend, we need to plan. We always talk about planning, but we need to do it in an easy way. We need to plan in an easy way, something easy. Planning is not something easy, and it's not easy to bond this, to link this with the budget. An important challenge that is going to be for the future, or at least for me, something essential, is to motivate the citizen to use these tools. Because in some places it has happened that there are different platforms, but people do not use them. Maybe because we don't listen, or maybe because we don't take it as a critical and objective perspective. All the critical point of view, we need to take those into account to improve the platforms, so we can drive people to use information, to use the platforms with easy information that is going to be useful for everybody. I think that this is something that we are missing. The platform is available for researchers, for professors, but we need to reach more people. We need to reach more audience. The last corner, at least in Paraguay, so everybody can use it in a useful way, smartly enough, so we can keep with this progress. I think that we are missing that. Now we need to know how to use this tool, adjusting all the tools that we have within the same aspect. And I think that's my response. We need to drive people, we need to drive citizenship, not only how to use these tools. We all need to use these kind of tools. Thank you. Thank you, Theodora. You're right. We need to get closer to the citizens, so I will avoid these gaps, because these platforms are really well done, but people do not use them. That is what we want to avoid.
Center design and the way that they iterate and move forward. I leave the floor to you, Amy, and then to Juan Pablo to wrap this up today.
Great, thank you. I'll be brief because I think the colleagues on the panel, spoke very well to the challenges. And I would just add that, obviously getting people to use the data is one of our, challenges too. We always want to have more users. I would say that through the COVID, past 2 years dealing with the COVID and the pandemic, we have seen a record number of users on our website. And I think they've been curious about, we have had an increase obviously in spending directly related to the pandemic, and people were very curious about those funds. And so we've seen an increase, and we're trying to keep those users. So a couple creative things that we've done is that we've tried to bring our data to life, to tell stories. And we've used that, kind of make it relevant to people through our analysis. So how much money did your university receive from the federal government where you went to college or where you studied? So like there's analysis where people can find their university and they can go on and they can see it. We've used Twitter to try to tell stories about, how funds are helping people or doing good things, or how the government's serving them, or answer curious questions. So we've been trying to, now that we were getting more and more users, we want to keep them and have them coming back to the site over and over again. So I think those are really, small things we've done to try to keep those users engaged. The last thing that I just wanted to mention that I didn't say before that I think is probably an ongoing challenge for anyone working with data is trying to improve data quality and having assurance over the data that you have. And one of the things that we have done with Usaspending that gives our information we have is that we have the law required the audit of the data that's on our website. So every 2 years, the auditors across our US government and our kind of chief audit authority, the Government Accountability Office, they are auditing the different information that we get from all the different agencies. And we have had steady increases in the improvement of that data quality over the last few years that those have been conducted. So I think that's an important thing that the public can trust and have assurance that that data is right and accurate and they can rely on it. So I'll end with that and turn back to you. And thank you for having me today.
Thank you, everyone. We're on time. Amy, this was a perfect way to end. Fiscal transparency only if it engages citizens and only if within the system you have checks and balances, accountability systems to make sure that the quality of information is the right one. And for that, again, civic engagement and external control is key. Thank you for your time. This session has been recorded and your presentations and the recording will be available in the GIF website and on the conference website. Thank you. Have a great day and keep enjoying the UN World Data Forum.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Have a nice day.